Hey guys, Tasha here from Stardust Gold Crochet. Welcome to the tutorial on how to crochet your own mittens. These mittens are called the Tabby Star Crochet Mittens, and in this tutorial we'll be working through my pattern. This is the pattern, and this pattern was available on my blog for free. You can download this PDF if you prefer, also available on my blog. The original version I did in blue was with Heartland yarn, and that's by Lion brand, and this is a Heartland tweed. It's really beautiful yarn, and they were fingerless and no thumb because I kind of liked it that way. So what this tutorial is going to teach you is not only how to work this pattern, but also how to just generally design your own crochet gloves. And unfortunately, this yarn here, which is Yarn Bees Denim in Color, I'm so sad that this is discontinued because this is one of my favorite yarns, you guys. So if you want to find a similar yarn, I looked online and I put the yarn subs in the link. But a good one is Lion Brand's cotton. There's a new cotton blend they have. This is a cotton blend, 157 yards, 3.5 ounces, and it has about 144 meters. It's a 50% acrylic, 50% cotton. So it's a 4-weight, but it's slightly thicker. This is a 4-weight as well, but this is not as thick. It has a different kind of feel to it than this one does. But I'm hoping that you can find something similar to this. There's one called Barocco Vibe that I found also that looks very similar and has similar colors. So the way to work a mitten, we're going to just go over this real quick. So here is one that's similar to the one that does not have the thumb, and it also doesn't have the flap to go over it as a mitten. So you can see what the difference those two accents make to your glove pattern or your mitten pattern. This one is worked, the Tabby Star is worked from the top down. What that means is this is the top of your hand. You're working from the top of your hand down up to your elbow. So instead, when you're crocheting, you're actually working from this is the first row, and then you're working up this way. And then I worked the cuff last. So when you put it on, you can see I created a seam for this one, and actually this is my right hand, so I'm going to go ahead and put on my right hand. I created a seam for that reason right there, is because when I'm fumbling with my stuff, of course the thumbs would let me know which is right hand and left-handed if I have the thumb on there, but because I chose thumbless for this design when I originally did it, it doesn't work out that way, so I made a seam. But if you'd like, you can crochet this in the round, which is another way you can do mittens, is you just crochet in a seamless round. And I'm actually doing that here. And what you do when you crochet in the round is you need to place a stitch marker on the beginning or the end, either the beginning stitch or the last stitch of each round that you're working. And this, I'm actually working the top to this mitten. So I will go through all the stitches and everything, but I just wanted to give you the basic idea on how to crochet your own mittens. Now, first, before we jump into the pattern, so crocheting your own mittens, you want to start by measuring with a measuring tape around your hand here. Mine measures about 7 inches. I have a small hand, so this pattern is written for 7 inches, and I'm modifying it just a little bit to add for a wider hand and a smaller hand. So mine is 7 inches. I started off this pattern with 25 around, and it fits my hand perfect. So remember, this is the top. I'm just going to put my hand in there. So when you're making your own crochet mittens, you want to basically measure around your hand and leave just a little bit of stretch if you want, so you can move your hands freely. 25 worked perfect for me. It might be a little bit longer for you or less for you. So let's talk about the thumbs. it's different for your right and your left hand. So this is actually my left-handed glove, and this is my right-handed glove. We're going right to left, so we're actually starting here. I'm going to put it this way, and then we're working all the way around to here. So I worked 17 or 18 stitches until I got to the opening of my thumb. Then I chained. You make a chain, you skip those stitches, and then you pick up back again on the other side. So for the right hand, you start off with 3 stitches, and then you work 4 chains, and then 18 stitches around to the other side. But I'll go over all of that in detail in this tutorial. And I know this is taking a little bit longer, but this is going to be a long tutorial because it's how to do it. And then we'll also go over the assembly of this glove and how to work the border. And when you're doing your own crochet glove, you can choose any kind of border you want. I'll also show you how to attach a thumb to this. Okay guys, thanks for sticking through this intro. Thank you for watching, and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Give it a thumbs up and a like, and let's get crocheting. And when you're working a mitten, you don't have to have a detachable mitten. This is detachable. I wanted it to be that way so I can work on my computer, or keep my thumbs open so I can text message, for instance. But it's great to have this kind of mitten because when you want to drive the car and you get cold, or you're on your lunch break or whatever, you can just close it on up. And the top of this loop, because you can use elastic for that. I used a button with just a little piece of yarn to secure it, but I'm thinking, because I have a tiny bit of OCD, that I'm going to put a button here so I can button it down just a little bit there, so it doesn't look so funny on the way out like that. But you can work your mitten from bottom to top like this. And if you wanted to do a mitten that's completely just continuous without any detachable aspects, you could just work your pattern from the top just like we did, all the way up until you reach this part of your thumb, and then that's where you would make your thumb hole, and then make your thumb hole, come back around and work all the way back down again. And then you just just sew the top up like I'll show you how to do in this video, and I just did with this one. You sew it on the inside, just bring all the pieces together, and then that was the top of your mitten. But you could always just work it straight down. This is the top, work it straight on down, and then make your thumb hole and work it on, and then create your cuff, and then you'll just have a complete solid mitten. You can create your thumb like this with a hole in it, or just like you did the top of your mitten, just create your thumb long enough and close it by sewing it together. Then you just have complete traditional classic mittens. So let's get on with the tutorial on how to create these interchangeables called the Tabby Star. I hope you guys enjoy this tutorial. Thanks so much for watching. The first thing we're going to do is you'll want to determine how wide you want your opening to be at the top of your mitten. So for my hand, I have this is where the measuring tape comes in handy. I have very small hands, so this pattern is written for somebody with really small hands. Mine are about 7 inches around. The actual mitten, my original mitten, measures about 8 inches around. I like it just a little bit loose, not too tight. The Tabby Star pattern has a chain of 25 to start, so go ahead and chain 25. If you need to chain more for the size of your hand, if it's larger than 7 inches. That's not going to make much of a difference in the rest of the pattern. The only difference it will make really is when it comes to the number of stitches you make before your thumb hole and the number of stitches of your thumb hole and the number of stitches coming after your thumb hole. Flat up like this, and then I kind of bend it around and go into that first hole. I'm not sure if you guys can hear this or not, but my upstairs neighbor decided to start playing Creedence Clearwater Revival really, really loud. I'm going to chain 1, single crochet into the first. You can crochet through both or just the top loop. Okay, let's chain or single crochet 25 and meet around. Actually, it sounds like a Christmas party. Okay, I hope you guys don't mind it. It's actually kind of nice given everything that's going on right now. So I have completed my single crochet, my first round. What we're going to do now is decide whether or not you want to work in the round for your mittens or do joins. So I did a join for my original pattern, so I'm going to do a join for this pattern. If you do the joins, you're going to join into the chain, not the stitch itself, but into the chain. And if you're not doing a join, you'll go straight and start working into your first single crochet. But before you do that, you'll want to mark the last stitch of your round through the front little loop there. Get a locking stitch marker, because then you won't accidentally knock it out, which I've done before. And so then you'll start working your next round 2. For round 2, I'm going to join into this chain, because that's how I did it before, so I want to do that again. I'm going to chain 1. If you're working in the round, you don't need to chain 1, you just keep going and just keep working around and around. Round 2 is a half double crochet, and we're going to work half double crochet into each single crochet from the previous round. If you're not familiar with a half double crochet, you yarn over first, insert your hook into the stitch, grab your yarn, pull up a loop, you'll have 3, grab your yarn, pull through all 3. That's how simple a half double crochet is. So work 25 half double crochets, pause the video, and we'll come right back. I've come around to the last part, and here's my stitch marker. If I were working in the round, this would be the last stitch of my round, and so I would know that the next stitch would be the first stitch of my round, and that's important when it comes to the end. But for me and anybody else working the regular pattern, it's not. So we're going to work into that last half single crochet, and then we're going to, this is our chain here, this is our actual stitch there. So I'm going to close it up, but first count your stitches and make sure you have 25. 2, 4, 6, 8, 24, 25. That's great. So I'm going to actually work my join into the chain. For round 3, people working the pattern, chain 1. For round 3, not. Just doing continuous, just keep going in your rounds. And this is our half double crochet. Half double crochets have 2 different top loops, it looks like. There's 3 loops total on top. And what we're going to do is work into the very, very, very back loop, which is called the third loop. So it's the first loop, second loop, third loop. This is front loop, back loop, third loop. So yarn over, insert your hook into that very back loop, and it's kind of good to kind of pull your work forward a little bit. You can bend it forward even. I kind of smush it this way, so it's just easier to get my stitches in. And I also switch to a pencil hold for that one, because I find half double crochets are a lot easier with a pencil hold. So when you're working this pattern, it's actually easier to work it inside out, because when you're working it back loop, that's the loop you're working into, is that third loop. You just go straight back into there, and it just makes it a whole lot easier. And then when you're finished, just flip it back out. So work 25 half double crochets in the third loop, oops, all the way around. I've worked my 25 half double crochets. I'm coming up on the end here. I'm going to join into my chain. If you're working in the round, just keep working in the round. Also, for rows 4, you're just going to repeat this round. I say rows 4 to 6 for the tabby pattern, but if you are designing your own, this is where you would decide whether or not you would like to make these longer. When I say longer, I mean if you want more space on top for your hand. So I'll show you what I mean, because these are somewhat short. See how they come up? I made these to come up to right here, so they don't really cover all of my fingers. And when we work the top flap, you'll also modify the top flap if you want this longer. You won't be crocheting as many rows for that top flap. But for this one, I have about 6 rows before I get to my thumb hole. So if you would like this part to be longer, you want to crochet more rows right now, and then you can make it longer for it to come up on your fingers higher like that, or you could cover up your pinky. I have a very small pinky, by the way. Okay, so but for this pattern, the tabby pattern, the written pattern, I stop at row 6, so crochet, and that will be for the shorter pattern. So crochet up to row 6, and you're going to repeat the round 3, which is half double crochet into the 3rd loop of each stitch. Welcome to Memphis, y'all. They singing all shook up out there. Round 7, which is going to be our thumb hole, we're going to do 18 half double crochets. So at the end of round 6, you're going to join like normal, do your half double crochet in the back loop only of each until you reach 18. For those who are working the other pattern or working your own or trying to design your own, you're going to want to, what you're going to want to do, it's for the left hand, you're going to want to decide where you want your hole to be. So you will have to basically, since this is from the top, it's upside down. I'll show you how to determine that. So you're going to turn it around like this. That's why I also like using a seam, because it just makes it easier, but a stitch marker is fine too. So here's my seam, and I'm going to put this on my hand actually. So I put it on my hand, and I'm actually crocheting around from my seam, which is here, crocheting around till I come to my thumb. So that's where I want to make my hole. I don't want to make it too close to the thumb, but you could crochet more and make the thumb hole smaller. I used 4 stitches. You can use 3 stitches if you want to make it tighter, and then you pick back up on the other side. So I'm going to take it off and we'll show you how to do that. So I crocheted 18. I'm going to chain 4. I'm going to skip 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then I'm going to start again with a half double crochet, 3rd loop only in the next stitch, like that. And then I'm going to close out with 2 more stitches. The pattern calls for 3 half double crochet to close out the round. So that's what it looks like when you have your thumb hole. And you can see, test it, put it on. I always like to test stuff. So put it on, see if that's what you want. If not, you can chain 3 here, make it smaller, chain 3, skip 3, and that's how you modify the design for your thumb hole. So for the next round, which is round 8, you're going to do the same thing. Join in the slip stitch with a join in the chain with a slip stitch, and then chain 1 and begin your next round working half double crochets in the 3rd loop. And that first one is a little tricky, but make sure you count your stitches and that you have 25 stitches throughout. For the people that are doing just in rounds, you're just going to continue doing your round. One thing I wanted to mention was about the right and left hand. So the pattern, there's 2 row 7s. That's because one is for your left hand and one is for your right hand. And it says 17 on there, but I'm changing that. So So we'll be doing, yeah, if you're modifying it for your right hand. So instead of chaining 17 or 18 at the beginning, you'll be chaining the same amount you chain at the end here on your right hand. So if I were to put this on my right hand, you can see it just, this would be the beginning and this would be the end. Hope that makes sense. That's to keep your seam on the inside. A note for round 8 will be working the half double crochets into the chain, work into the top 2, because it gives a little bit of more stability, just a little bit, than just one loop sometimes doesn't give a lot of stability. So you're going to actually work into the chain and not around the chain. Although for design purposes, if you want to work around the chain, you're more than welcome to. You'll be working the thumb holes rows from row 8 to 23. That's for the pattern. But if you have wanted to extend it or make it longer, you'll be working more rounds this way. And when you put it on, you can see how long it is. Mine comes up mid, almost to my elbow. You can see, well, not halfway, a little bit less than halfway. The original I did a few more rounds, and that one comes up a little bit further. The yarn is not as thick as the one I'm using for the tutorial, so it's a little more flexible, and that one comes up just a little bit further. So decide how many rounds you want to do. I did 23 for this one. For this one I did about 18, and that's just your personal preference. You can also, after you're finished, before we work, I'm going to show you how to work this design. But if you want to eliminate this, you don't have to put it on there for your mittens. You can do just a half double crochet or a single crochet, or even find a cute border to use. So that's your decision entirely. But right now we're going to work through, and I'm going to show you for the Tabby Star pattern how to work this border. I just finished my round. I'm going to join. Can you guys hear that music? I'm going to join, I'm going to chain 2, and this will be considered round 24 for the pattern. Chain 2, and then we're going to do a double crochet in the 3rd loop of each half double crochet that we worked for the previous round. And for those who don't know how to do a half or a double crochet, for those who do, skip on to the next part, and for those that don't, a double crochet is where you yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, grab and pull up 1 loop, grab your yarn and pull through 2, grab your yarn and pull through 2 until you just have 1 left on your hook. So go ahead and pause the video, and we'll come back at the end of this round. Come to the end of round 24. I'm going to join in the 2nd chain from my chain 2 at the beginning with a slip stitch, and then for round 25 I'm going to chain 2 like I did in the previous round and work a front post double crochet around my first double crochet. So a front post, for those who don't know what it is you yarn over once, you insert your hook around the stitch and out the front, grab your yarn, pull up a loop, you'll have 3 on your hook, then grab your yarn, pull through 2, grab your yarn and pull through 2, just like a regular double crochet. And we work a front post double crochet around each of the 25 double crochets that we have in our round. So for those working a different border, you can skip this part and go to the next part, where we do the top of the mitten. But for those who aren't, you can skip to the end of this, and we'll work round 26, which is our final round. See, it's not that hard. This is the end of my round, and I wanted to show you something that might be confusing for newbies. This is my chain right here. The chains don't count as a stitch, but as I'm crocheting, I was almost about to go like this and go, oh, but no, that's my chain. So I don't want to mess with that. I just want to use it as a join, and that's my seam. So we're going to work round 26. So I'm going to join into the second chain, then I'm going to chain 2 like we did for the previous round 25. But what we're going to do different now is join these two together. So when you do a front post stitch, it leaves a ridge in the back. This is a little bit of a tip, and sometimes you might not get around the right stitch if you don't kind of push that ridge back. Go in and around your first post, yarn over, pull up, yarn over and pull through 2. Then instead of completing your double crochet, you're going to yarn over again, insert your hook around the next stitch, pull up, you'll have 4 on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, then you'll have 3, then you close out the stitch and it takes the 2 stitches down to 1. The rest of the round is the same, double crochet, front post around each, and when you get to the end you'll have 2 stitches left. When you work 21 of these. I'm coming up on the end here, and it kind of looks like I have 3 stitches there, but like I was saying before, that is not a stitch, that's your seam. And you can always, if you're working in the round, you're not going to have this seam because you're just continuously working in the round. So for these last 2 stitches, we're going to join again with our front post double crochet 2 together. And we've completed that. And for our last and final join, we're going to join in the top of the chain, and that's it. Here is where you would cut your yarn, leave a little bit of a long tail and tie it off, and you would have your mittens completed if you're doing the simple version of these Tabby Star with the thumbs out.